I'm here for another episode of Cold Email Breakdown with Josh. And before we start, we'll introduce ourselves because I'm sure there's people watching this who've never seen this before. My name's George. I'm the founder of Email Chaser, which is a cold email sending platform. And Josh, if you don't mind introducing yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Josh Michaels, the founder of Three Red Boxes, a email deliverability and outreach.
All right. So I thought today we do a little bit of a different format where I have this list of different topics which I found online, and I'm just gonna go through them one at a time. And you can just give me your feedback, your thoughts on each one, kind of like a quick bullet point format. So first thing here is offer. In your opinion, how important is the offer when you're launching cold email campaigns?
Probably the most important part of it. I think besides your list, I think what you are offering and how you offer it will determine if you have a outreach system that can potentially work.
For the average person, what's your opinion on open rates?
I think open rates are a vanity metric to me. I think they can be very skewed based on which platform you're in, who you're sending to. Office 365, when they tend to not trust you, they tend to technically machine open more emails versus Google 365. Their machines don't open as many emails. So if you're going to look at open rates, make sure you look at it by provider. But overall, if you're going to use them, just use it as a baseline. Don't say, well, I only have 35% open. Other people have a 70% open. So I need to do better. Use it as a baseline to know from week to week, month to month, what's going on. Maybe use it as an A/B test for subject lines to see if things get better. But overall, it's not something that can tell you if your emails are actually being delivered or opened or replied to or anything else.
How many emails do you think someone has to send to know whether their campaign is working or not? Like, for example, if they send only 20 emails, is that enough volume to know if they're onto something?
I don't think so. I mean, if you're going after a reply, which is, relatively difficult, most people live in the 0.5% to maybe 5 or 6% reply rate versus a click through to a website might be a little bit higher. But if you do the math, if you send to 20 people and you have a 2% click rate, reply rate, whatever it is, odds are you're not going to get someone to click through. So even if you send to 100 and you have a 3% reply rate, which is really good, that's 3 people out of 100. You might have sent to the wrong batch of 100, only got one. So I would generally say in my world, when I tend to look at analytics, I like to see at least 1,000 sends either per A/B test or just in general, because I think you get a really good idea of what's going on. Yes, you could make, if you send 400 or 500 and you're A/B testing a subject line, and one is doing considerably worse than the other, maybe it's enough to tell you what's going on. But 20 cents, 50 cents, 100 cents, I don't think is nearly enough. I think you have to get at least over 500, if not closer to 1,000.
How fast do you think someone needs to reply to a lead? So if you send an email and the lead replies, how quick do you have to get back to the lead?
I think it somewhat depends on what it is. I think that replying within a couple hours is generally what I shoot for. So it depends on what exactly your reply is. If you have, actual SDRs or sales teams that each are monitoring their own mailboxes and getting back to somebody, a lot of times I will set up auto replies that will shoot back within about 60 minutes, but they don't really do it after hours, right? I might push business hours a little bit on those a little bit later. Instead of shutting off at 4 or 5 p.m., I might shut off at 6 or 7 p.m. I don't really want to be bugging people at 9, 10, 1 o'clock in the morning. If George happens to be awake reading my email at 1 a.m. and I shoot him a message back at 2 a.m., he's probably going to know it wasn't a real email from me and that it was an auto reply, right? So generally, I would say at the absolute most, you need to reply within 24 hours, but the sooner the better. But you also, I don't know if you want to make it look like you're sitting at your mailbox waiting for George to reply to me or whoever it is. And then automatically 3 seconds later, sending a quick message to them. So get the message, think about what they said. depending on your industry, depending on the value proposition of what you're doing, you want to get back to them within 24 hours. If not, if you get it in the morning, reply by the afternoon. If you get it in the afternoon, reply by the next morning type thing.
Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 email accounts?
Flip a coin. Honestly, I don't know. I think that both of them have pros and cons. I would say overall, either one of them can work if you've built the right system. I don't think at the end of the day, if you have a good targeted list, you have a good infrastructure, you have a good system built. I've not seen a difference between the two. The one thing that I will say that I like more is when Google suspends a mailbox, it will keep sending. So if you're warming on that mailbox or you have a outreach platform running, it will act like it's still sending and just get stuck in the mailbox. So all of those people that you have in your list that you thought you sent to that day, let's say it's 100 people, that platform will think that you sent it and they'll all just get stuck. Versus Office, when they restrict a mailbox, they shut it down, which means that the platform, the warming, whatever you're doing will not send at all. And you don't have to go back and figure out who are the leads that I was supposed to send to that day. Did I actually send to them? Did I not send to them? So that is one advantage that Office has. Overall, if something goes wrong, it's a better system. But other than that, it's a 50-50 mix. It's personal preference at this point, really.
Do you add social proof to your campaigns that when you're writing your emails?
Many times, yes. Again, I know I keep saying it comes down to the industry, but I do think social proof is important. I have many campaigns where we will A/B test different styles of content, and generally some kind of social proof helps. But it also depends on what your value proposition is and what your conversion is and what you're trying to do. So just going out there and saying, if I did outreach for myself at trying to get more outreach clients, just saying I've helped other clients in outreach raise $5 million this year, it sounds good, but is it provable? If you're going to use social proof, in my mind, you have to do it in a way that people can recognize, understand, and know that it's true. Otherwise, you could make up whatever you want. It's like reviews on your own website. You have complete control of it versus a Google review or a G2 review or some of these other ones where you have no control. I can say I made $5 million this last month with clients. Who knows if it's true? Versus if I can actually put something that you can go research and see if it's true. I worked with this client and they did this, and you can go look that up somehow, either in a case study or on their website, or somebody gave me a review on my website, then it can work really well. But I think I see a lot of emails of people saying, I got Email Chaser 50 leads last month and 45 booked meetings. Okay. I mean, it sounds really cool. Sounds great. But did you? I mean, not trying to say people lie. Did it actually happen?
It's got to be believable.
Right.
All right. Is this single or double verification?
For what?
For leads. So, for example, we have a lead list and you are uploading 10,000 leads to your verification software. Do you do single verification with just one verification platform, or do you do double verification? So you upload them to one platform, and then after that, you then upload them to a second platform, and then only contact leads that are valid with both platforms.
I generally just do single verification. I use very specific platforms. I've been doing this for a while. I've worked at agencies where they've had their own hygiene software that's out there that's really good. So I've learned a lot about it over time. I've also learned what to look for. So the ones that only do a valid versus invalid test, find out how they do it, make sure it's being done correctly. And also you should be using one that also does a threat detection, which is really important because it's not just, is it a valid email, especially for those that are in the marketing world. maybe a little more than the outreach world, right? There's spam complainers, there's known threats, known malicious. People get their email addresses in these lists on purpose to see if you're actually cleaning the list. There's a lot of reasons in the opted in consent world and in the outreach world. You have to be careful and make sure that they're not only hygiening the list, but that they're also looking for a threat detection. But I think a single verification should be enough. If you run one and you're noticing a bounce rate anywhere over 3%, then you either need to do another platform or like George was saying, you need some different verification. But you should live, if not under 1%, for sure, under 1.5%. And if you're not, then switch platforms.
Yeah. On this topic, Email Chase is going to be releasing double verification with 2 different platforms in about 1 to 2 weeks. So that's a new feature we have coming. And I agree, you can use single verification if it's a good provider, but the issue I've seen people have is they'll go for the cheapest verification service. And some of these cheap, not all of them, but some of the cheap verification services are definitely less accurate. So you just got to be careful there. What about subject lines? What's your opinion on subject lines? How to create one? What's the right length?
I would say technically the shorter the better. I don't like 2-word or 3-word subject lines, but I would say somewhere between the 5 to 7 word range. I shoot for around 5 words, the best that I can. I would look at somehow personalizing it. I feel like it works better if I'm sending an email to George, an email chaser, if I can either use his name or his company in it. The more you can show that you did the research about that person or about that company, the more it helps you. You know, hey, George, I see at Email Chaser that you guys do sending, built a sending platform. Obviously, that wouldn't be the subject line, but I've seen that the best open rates come from personalizing it with either first name or company name, depending on what exactly you're going for.
Yeah, especially if that personalization is something that recently happened. You imagine someone has an article written about the company, and then you mention that article in the subject line, or the opening line in the body. Like that's the kind of thing which would really get the attention of the person receiving your email. And then what about bounce rates? In your opinion, what's the highest bounce rate you could have in a campaign before you decide to pause it and investigate what's going on?
I would say anything over 3%. I would say for sure, if you hit anything over 5%, you need to pause and figure out what's going on. There are absolute times where you'll get blips. It happened to me the other day with the client. We had a list that we cleaned about 30 days ago. Was a larger list, and we were just pulling sections of it for different ICPs, different targeting that we were hitting. And we happened to hit one where 2 days in a row, we hit like a 4.5%, 5% bounce rate. And I was like, you just cleaned this then. What's going on? Maybe we pulled the wrong part of the list. But by the next 2 days, the bounce rate was back down to 0.3%. So there's going to be times where you're just going to hit these random blips. Make sure that they're random blips. If you hit a 4 or 5% in one day, slow down, try to figure out what's going on. Make sure that you're pulling from the right list, that it's been hygiened. If it happens for more than 2 days, then I would absolutely pause the campaign, go back to that list, most likely re-clean it. I would even run the ones that bounced. I would rerun the whole list that you just added to see, did the person leave the job? Did the email change? Did something happen that caused it from 30 days ago to all of a sudden be a bounce that it wasn't registered as that before? In the B2B world, people leave jobs on a regular basis. It's not like consumer world where people keep their Gmail accounts or Yahoo accounts for years and years and years. In the business world, people leave jobs. People, for whatever reason, they're promoted. Things change, websites change. So I generally will re-clean any list at least every 180 days, if not 90 days, depending on the size of it. And again, anything over a 5% bounce rate, you need to absolutely pause, figure out what's going on. If you peak up one day at 3%, 3.5%, look at it the next day, see if it was just a blip in the system. You happen to hit some weird part of the list that just people left their job, they retired, who knows, maybe their PNS was down for a couple hours and it came back wrong. So, like I said, over 5%, pause. Anything below that, keep an eye on it. Make sure if you're seeing consistently over 3%, figure out what's wrong, re-clean the list, go back forward.
Ideal copy length.
Under 150 words, for sure. I would say I shoot for anywhere between 50 to 75 words for most of my emails. I've tested a few that are a little bit longer. I have a couple clients where we've realized that 2 sentences that max out at 60 words works the best. We've A/B tested it with you saying basically the same exact thing, just adding in a few words here or there, and got it up to 150 words. And all of a sudden, our reply rates dropped. Even though we're saying the same thing, people don't really want to read. And the more words you add into the email that don't need to be there, take them out. Say what you need to say in as few words as possible. Don't write 5 words, but, write hello, hi, whatever you want, first name, write, your proposition that you're going after, write a simple call to action, get in, get out, especially in your first email. Make it the simplest thing possible.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard people saying that longer emails are more likely to go spam because when you have a 200 word email, it's a lot easier for Gmail or Outlook to categorize that email as some kind of sales related thing, and it'll just put it in spam compared to a short 2 sentence email, which almost looks more like something that your colleague would send you. When the email gets up to 200 words, there's so much text in there. You're sort of giving the email provider, Gmail or Outlook, more opportunity to categorize it as salesy and then put in spam. So the shorter emails are sort of just more likely to hit the primary inbox potentially.
I can see that being true because, as we've talked about before, all these inbox providers are using AI and they're reading the intent behind the email. So the more information you give them, the easier it is to figure out the intent. And I would also say go through your inbox. If you're in the business world and you have a business email address, go in your inbox and see how long the emails are that you're writing and people are writing. I'm going to guess at least 80% of them contain 2 to 3 sentences max. And that's it. So that is, you're not writing an essay to a lot of colleagues or who you're writing to. Yes, there are times you need to write a longer email to somebody. It happens, but generally you're writing really short, sweet, succinct emails with no fluff. And that's what I would say. Keep out the fluff, keep out the words that don't need to be there. Write the email. Try to take out 20% of it, 50% of it. Just say the same thing with less words. There's a lot of words that we don't need in the English language that we write, that we say, that don't actually need to get the point across. And like I said before, people don't like to read. So if you give them 50 words to read, they're more likely to see it, recognize it, and read it versus you gave them 200 words or 500 words. They're going to get overwhelmed and they're just going to ignore it. They're going to think it's too much information. Even if it's the best written email in the world, they're probably not going to read it just because it's too long. They don't want to take the time to read it.
I've got two more for you. How many emails do you typically put in a sequence?
I would say anywhere from 2 to 4. I ironically had a couple clients that we only do one email that works well. They're the only ones. It's a very, very niche industry, but all of the other ones, I would say a minimum of 2. I prefer 3 and 4 at the most. I think you could go after 2 good outreach emails, and then I generally follow it up with a third email that maybe includes a little more humor, something like "I'll leave you alone after this one." I mean, not those words, but something with humor. I've bugged you enough. If you're not, if you're not interested, I'll leave you alone. People like a little bit of humor. If you can make them laugh a little bit, if you can make them appreciate a little bit, change up their day. People don't generally smile while they're at work. So if you can make them smile a little bit or laugh a little bit. So I'll generally do that as my last email, whether it's email 3 or 4, just to try to get them to react differently than the other ones. I'll make it really, really short too. Literally 1, 2 sentences max. Very short, very simple. But yeah, I'd say at least 2 emails. Give the person a chance. If not 3, potentially 4. I would say test them, see where that fall off starts to happen for open rates and reply rates, especially the reply rates. If you're sending 4 emails and email number 4 never gets a reply ever, you're wasting volume. You're wasting volume. You could be getting out to more leads in a day. If email 3 never gets a reply, again, you're wasting volume. I wouldn't go under 2 unless you have a very, very specific reason. I would always keep it at 2. I like 3. That's kind of my sweet spot where I start from and then I test from there.
Yeah, I think I really agree with that last point about wasting volume. I think that's such a common mistake where people don't understand the concept of sending capacity management. So they're sort of obsessed with the number of follow-ups they have, but they don't consider that if your fourth email in your sequence is only responsible for 1% of total replies, why are you wasting 25% of your sending capacity for 1% of total replies? As you said, you can just reach out to more people. It's a lot more efficient that way.
Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of my clients don't understand is how email volume works. They think it equates to the amount of lead we can reach. If we say, just as an easy number, that every mailbox can do 50 emails a day, right? If you have a 2 email sequence, that means you could only put 25 new leads in a day, because after the second email goes out, you're doing email 1 and email 2. 25 times 2 is 50. So now you're only getting through 25 new contacts a day, but you're doing 50 emails. Versus if that was 3 emails long, now it's 50 divided by 3. 4 emails long, 50 divided by 4, right? Which now you're doing 12 or 13 new leads a day because you want to do 4 emails versus you could be getting to 25 new leads a day, somewhere in that range. So sometimes you just got to think about how large is my list? How fast do I want to get through it? And is it worth it to send that third and fourth email? Is it even doing it? If you're getting reply rates on it or conversions, keep it. I'm not saying to get rid of it and just slow down your volume. But if you're not getting your conversion, your booked appointment, your demo, your reply, you're kind of, like I said, you're just kind of wasting at volume. You could be getting more people into the funnel every day.
And final one, spintax or no spintax?
Absolutely spintax. I like to put, I don't want to say as much as I can because sometimes it gets a little bit crazy, but I would say at least 50% of your email should be spintax, if not more. I start with 20%. There are people who believe that there are certain words or sentences that they don't want to change from email to email. It's very, very important that they get that very specific phrase across. But there are many ways to use spintax, whether you do it, change up hi, hello, change up your signature a little bit. Like I've said before, if you're putting an address in there, you could say California, you can say CA. I would also try, I generally don't like to do spintax on my actual CTA. I would rather do A/B test on it so I can see which one does better personally, because to me, that's one of the most important parts of the email based on if I'm getting replies or not, is that CTA. So if you use spintax on it, you don't know which one's working. So I will use basically everything else in that email except for the CTA, and then I will use that same email with the same spintax as an A, and then create a different version for B, C, D, however many you want to test the call to action. But I would say, you can use spintax on specific words. You can use it on complete sentences. I like to do it on specific words, maybe 2 or 3 words at a time versus the whole sentence, because it gives you more variations that you can do. But these providers are watching everything you do. So the more you can change every single email that goes out, the more variations you have, the likelihood of you staying in the inbox is much higher.
On the topic of spintax, Email Chaser is going to be releasing a new AI spintax feature in the next maybe 3 to 4 days, so probably on Monday. So for anyone watching this who uses Email Chaser, keep an eye out for that. That's coming very soon. And that was supposed to be the last one, but you brought up a really good point about call to action, so we might as well make that the last talking point today. in your opinion, what is the best way to write a call to action when sending cold emails?
I think again, it depends on what your conversion is, what your value proposition is, what your industry is. But I think something simple, like I've said before, to me, outreach, especially your first email, maybe number two, you're really just trying to get your foot in the door. I generally go for replies. I don't like booked appointments. I think it's asking for too many steps in the process. I generally go for reply. I make it something really, really simple, even using the word reply in there so people know exactly what they're supposed to do. If you just say you want more information, most of us know what that means, but it's easy to miss, right? So I'll generally tell the person what to do, short, simple, sweet, you know, reply to this email for more information. Get in touch with me if you don't want to say reply for more information or to find out more, or let's just start, a conversation. You're really just trying to start a conversation. If you attack it from that angle, it works the best.
All right, well, that's my list of topics. Thank you for answering. For anyone watching this who wants to launch cold email campaigns for their company and they're thinking that this is just too much stuff to implement themselves, or they don't have time, or they don't have the time to learn all this, you might want to hire a cold email agency to do this for you or for your business. Josh has a cold email agency and he works with clients all the time. So, Josh, can you just tell everyone watching where they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, the website is 3redboxes.com. It's all spelled out. So THREEBOXES. I spelled it wrong. 3redboxes.com. THREEREDBOXES.com. Sorry about that. And you can go to the website, find out what we do. There's a form in there to tell us what you need, what you're looking for. It goes directly to me. I will respond. We can talk. If you just have questions, you're not sure what you need, feel free to fill it out. We could jump on a call and go over the basics of what you're looking
I'm also gonna add your LinkedIn profile to the description of this YouTube video. So you can get anyone watching, just get out to the description. You'll find Josh in there. And that's really it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me, Josh. And I look forward to our next episode.
for. Thanks, George.